Hey everyone, it's Prithvi Orgar and I'm here in this review for Madha Gaja Raja, the new film directed by Sundarsi and starring Vishal, Anjali, Varalakshmi Sarathkumar, and also Sandhanam in the lead roles. Now this film has such a peculiar release date history. It was supposed to come out way back in 2013 for Pongal, but it finally got its release date and it finally got its wish fulfilled in terms of releasing on Pongal. But that happens to be 12 years later for 2025 Pongal. Now, this film is the closest thing to having a time machine because we get to see a lot of things that we don't get to see in modern day Tamil cinema. Now, we get to see people that have sadly passed away in the past decade or so. Manivannan, Manobala, and also Chitti Babu, who have sadly passed away over the past decade, are in this movie in supporting roles. And technically, these will be their last ever roles that they ever done in their entire careers, and it's great to see them back on the big screen. Now, we also get to see certain individuals at certain points in their career through this film. This was at the point of his career where Vishal was trying to transition himself to becoming a full-time action star, and it's very interesting to see what kind of role this was for him if it had come out at the time, because I don't know if it would have been a huge success at the time, because obviously Ambala wasn't really a big hit when it first came out, and if this movie had came out at the time, maybe it would have been a meme-worthy film. But now it's become a huge success because a lot of people are missing these kind of commercial masala films, I guess. Even though this movie's not that great, I would say that maybe if this movie had come out at the time it was supposed to come out, maybe it would have been a hindrance for Vishal. But at this point, it's kind of helped him out in a weird way. And he's given it his all, he's doing a lot of things that all these commercial stars would do in these kind of roles. It's not a special kind of acting role at all, but it was probably a role that would have worked for him in terms of transitioning himself to a full-time action star had it come out in 2013. This is also Varalakshmi Sarathkumar's second film in her career, so this is her sophomore role. Now, she started off her career with Poda Podi, and technically now, this is probably the 10th or 12th or 20th film that she's ever done in her career, so very interesting to see. Again, nothing really special in terms of her role in this movie too. She's kind of just there for the sake of being there. In terms of Anjali, at this point in her career, she was known as this very good dramatic star. She was winning awards left, right, and center, and also she was transitioning herself to becoming this more commercial actor. Now, she starred in Kalakalapu with Sundarsi's direction, which became a huge blockbuster, and I was kind of sad to see that the kind of comedic talent that she showed in that film was not really utilized in this movie too. The same issue with Varalakshmi Sarathkumar is being done towards Anjali here. They're kind of just both here for the sake of being here, and it's not really a special role at all. There's nothing really memorable for her character in this movie, and if you really want to see Anjali being utilized in a great way in a comedic film, then watch Kalakalapu. Now I get to Sandhanam. Now Sandhanam in this movie is not amazing, but I think the reason why people love his role in this movie is because they kind of miss and yearn that kind of comedic / supporting actor Sandhanam that we all loved back in the day. Now he's become an actor, obviously. Some of his movies as an actor are decent, but to be honest with you, his peak and his top tier form was as a comedian. And some of the jokes in this movie are really funny. Some of them are a little bit outdated and kind of dry. But I think the reason why this movie became a huge success is because people are yearning for Sandhanam to go back into that kind of mode. And people want that kind of commercial, masala kind of movie here and there. Obviously, this movie's not amazing, but I think because a lot of the movies nowadays are not that funny or not that family oriented in terms of their stories, I think people wanted to see something like that for Pongal especially. And even though this movie is technically not that great, I think it's because of the nostalgia of wanting a movie of this kind of nature in modern day that people made this movie into a success. And I also think that Sandhanam should look at the success of this movie and think about doing more movies as a supporting actor / comedian. I'm not saying for him to abandon his hero kind of tendencies of what he wants to be in his future career, but I hope he takes this as a positive light and do more comedic roles, because again, some of the jokes in this movie are really good, especially the joke with Manobala and Vishal at the end of the film. That was a really good sequence, and it kind of reminded me of all those great comedic tracks that Sandhanam used to have back in the day. And we also get to see peak Vijay Antony through this movie as well. Now, Vijay Antony has become an actor / musician, And to be honest with you, I don't really care about his acting. I think he's just very bland in his acting. But he's also a director too, apparently. Yeah, so he's a director, actor, musician, producer. But yeah, I kind of yearn for that old Vijay Antony just as a musician, because some of his tracks and some of his albums were really good. They're very catchy. They're a certain type of music that we don't get to hear and listen to nowadays. And I think that, even though the songs in this movie are not top tier in comparison to some of Vijay Antony's best work, it's still nice to hear that kind of old nostalgic Vijay Antony type of flow through this movie. In comparison to Sundar Si's other films that he's ever done in his career, MGR is a little bit weak. He's made some really good movies in the past and post MGR too. Now, movies like Ullate Alita and also Anbesivam, Kalakalapu, Tia Velisayanam Kumare, those movies are great. They're fun. They are very meaningful. They have great comedic tracks, and obviously Anbesivam is one of the greatest Tamil cinema movies of all time. Whether you believe it or not that he directed that movie and it wasn't Kamal Haasan that was ghost directing it, that's up to you. But yeah, he's directed a lot of great movies, and I think that MGR has become a success because people are yearning for Sundar Si to abandon the Aranmane series and go back to doing these Kuttu Kudumbam kind of like, masala action drama films. Yeah, he's done films like this post MGR, and some of them didn't work out, but I guess he took a long break from doing them. So I think that the audience is trying to say something towards him and saying that he should go back to doing movies like this, because again, this was a fun watch in terms of watching it for the sake of seeing something nostalgic. Now, I talked about all these things, but I didn't really talk about the movie. To be honest with you, it's a 6 out of 10. MGR is kind of a throwback to the sensibilities that were there back in 2013. A lot of things in this movie are not existing now in Tamil cinema. Punch dialogues, over-the-top comedic sequences, or over-the-top action sequences. That whole hero and villain banter that always happens in movies. The cameos that usually happen in movies, like Arya and Sada are here, which is kind of nice to see. It's kind of like a nice throwback to when people used to do random cameos in movies. And, just the colorful sets and the weird songs that are put in for no apparent reason. All that stuff is pretty much gone now. And I think that that's what people are yearning for. I don't think people are saying that they love this movie because of the quality of it. I think they're saying that they love this film because they want Tamil cinema to have some deviation from the action films that they're doing right now and having a little more variety. I'm not saying that we need to go back to doing films like this, because I don't want them to go back to doing films like this, because some of the masala films, when you revisit them, are really, really horrible. But I think that what Tamil cinema is asking for is a good variety. If you're making a lot of action films, also make a lot of comedy films. Don't just make horror comedies. Make proper comedy films. Make dramas, make romantic films, make every sort of kind of movie, because again, that's what Tamil cinema people want. They want variety. They want, they want their viewing experience to be like a buffet. They don't want it to be just like a la carte, if you understand that metaphor. But yeah, overall, MGR is just a whatever movie. The only reason why it's become a success, in my personal opinion, is because of the nostalgia factor. And also, if you really want to see that kind of sensibility film from back in the day, watching it now as if it's a new release, I think it's a cool watch in that kind of sense. The main positives about this movie are pretty much Sandhanam being in his comedic role here. The music from Vijay Antony is pretty catchy at times. And just a nostalgic viewing of how things used to be back in the day. Watching them now in a present day sense is kind of an interesting watch just for that. So yeah, it's a 6 out of 10. I guess if you're into masala commercial films, this will work for you, but it didn't really work as much as it did for other people, for me. But, that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, MGR is decent, I guess.